Hi, welcome back to Salty at 60. We are less than 30 days away from fall, and pretty soon we're going to be seeing pumpkin spice everywhere. So I thought it would be a great time for us to take a look at fall fashion and what's coming up for the winter. So let's get into it. So for this video, what I decided to do was I was going to go straight to the source, meaning I looked at the runway shows for 25, 26. There are, of course, multiple runways, so I had to choose a few. And for this video, I chose looking at the fall winter runway for Ralph Lauren, for Chloe, and for Gucci. And what I wanted to do was just sort of give you some overall big tent observations on the trends rather than listening to other people about what they see may be a trend. And as you know, in the fashion world, sometimes what shows on the runway may not be what we see in stores. However, I thought it was just a great place to dive into, get that big tent picture of what's going to be in the stores this fall or what we can expect. So let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to share with you some observations and some research that I took a look at before we actually get into all three design houses and their looks. So the first thing I wanted to talk about as far as a big tent observation is that we are going to be looking at what colors textile manufacturers are predicting will be trending this year. And first up is the color blue. We are going to see everything in blues, from icy blues to these mid-tone, very bright blues. And then it'll start leaning into a little bit more darker blues, and finally ending at navy. I have heard other people say they thought navy was predicting to be big this fall. And I had actually said that in my last video that I made. However, I did not, with these particular three houses, see a lot of navy, although I do see a lot of blues. All right, the next color trend we are going to be seeing is in the red category. Anything from corals to cherry reds to burgundies to more of a purpley type red, all the way into plum colors, which I just think are beautiful. And if you had bought in to last year's trend of everything burgundy, you're going to love this because you're still going to see burgundy everywhere this year. Okay, so the third color prediction is browns, and that should not be a surprise to any of us. And I will say that out of these three colors that I'm showing here you today, these color predictions, I've seen mostly browns. They are just everywhere. And I did also want to make another observation for you, although it was not in any of the reports that I've seen, but I've seen a lot of gray. Gray is very strong this year, and interestingly enough, it is mixed a lot with browns. All right, let's talk about fabrics. They are sumptuous this year. You are still going to continue to see a lot of silk and satin. You are also going to continue to see tons of suede and all sorts of accessories, as well as the clothing. You are going to see a lot of fur trim, even fur sables, and just anything in fur, including handbags. You are also going to continue to see leather, and of course there will be velvet. Velvet, of course, is a perennial favorite fabric for this time of year, and you will see a lot of that in these three collections. All right, so let's talk accessories. In jewelry, we are going to see a lot of long necklaces, and the long necklaces are almost always paired with a shorter necklace, not quite choker length, some are choker length. And it's just a really pretty combination. And in one of these collections, I've seen a lot of chandelier type earrings. So a lot of larger jewelry, although I would say I do not see things in like resins or natural, like wood and anything like that. I'm not seeing the big wooden beads, that sort of thing. I am seeing things made out of lots of different metals. In handbags, we are seeing handbags that are a little bit slouchier. In other words, they can be structured, but they just seem to appear to be in a softer material, a softer leather. And of course, you will see a lot of suede handbags in all different colors. And the other thing that I am still seeing a lot of are flats. I am seeing slingbacks, kitten heels, Mary Janes, and a heeled mule, as well as suede slouchy boots. And of course, I continue to see riding boots. Okay, so now we're going to take a deep dive into these three design houses. And the first up is going to be Ralph Lauren, and his fall 25-26 collection. He named it the Romantics, and it is certainly romantic. It is a really beautiful and feminine take on his classic Americana. He has put together a collection that has a lot of ruffles, a lot of feminine details, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Now, I'm going to have to apologize to you because as we go through these outfits and I talk them through and some of my observations, I am going to have to put on my glasses. I am filming here this morning, which usually it should be bright and sunny right now, but we had horrible storms come through last night, and it is going to continue to rain and storm this morning, so it is very, very dark in here, and I'm going to have to use my glasses, and I know that puts a glare on the screen, so I apologize to you in advance, but hopefully you won't be looking at me anyway. You'll be looking at the clothes. So let's start to go through these. Okay, we're going to see a lot of rich furs, suedes, and velvets mixed beautifully over these ruffled blouses, as shown in this first outfit here. Throughout the collection, Ralph Lauren mixed in these beautiful lace and organza ruffled neck scarves, which I think are just beautiful and do give the collection a romantic vibe. And I have to say that these organza ruffly neck scarves, I kept looking to see if he had actually put a name to them. They are just really beautiful. It reminds me a little bit of the ruffly blouses that were around in the 80s, but only so much more elevated. And I can tell you that if I was somewhere where I had to wear suiting, I really like this look. I think it's so feminine. All right, so next up is this gorgeous maxi fur coat in rich brown, and they paired it with heeled boots. It is just so gorgeous. And I thought it was interesting in that the pants were styled tucked into the boots. It creates almost an equestrian feel, and juxtaposed with the rich fur, which you also see styled similar here in this look, you can see how many ruffled shirts that were featured just really ups the romantic factor, especially when you see them peeking out, like right here underneath like a blazer, or right up here at the neck, and it's just such a classic look, but it's just very elegant, and I just really like that look. I mean, I'm not going to be able to wear that in my everyday today life. However, it's just beautiful. You know, the rich and beautiful fabrics that he has in this collection. So in this next photo, a ruffled blouse is worn with a brooch, and it's paired with velvet black pants and a long black coat. I mean, this is just amazing. It's very dramatic, but it's still restrained, as is this next look. Here, this ruffled blouse is paired with black suiting and a wide belt, and you do see a lot of wide belts. I should have mentioned that in the beginning of the video when I was talking about the big tip. I am seeing a lot of wide belts, and I'm also seeing a lot of chain belts. So here he's using the wide belt, and this blouse goes a long way in making this outfit completely feminine, because it could be very more masculine, but this makes it does lend it to be romantic without being girly, and I really like that. So next we have what looks like a velvet brocade jacket, again paired with a ruffle shirt and an organza necktie. The loose pants and ruffle shirt together gives a very relaxed but put together look. All right, in this next photo, we see a monochrome look of brown on brown mixed with a chiffon type maxi skirt and a suede jacket. Just perfection, just perfection. A mix of materials is perfect for those women who don't like to wear overtly feminine fabrics, because the texture of the chiffon skirt mixed with this suede does it all without being obvious, which I think this is a juxtaposition that Ralph Lauren always employs over the decades. He has a fabulous way of mixing the masculine with the feminine. It is just his talent. Okay, so here, the dresses are absolutely beautiful. They're just gorgeous. He skillfully mixes, again, the romance of this high neck lace dress with black riding boots and a plain black belt, and employs it again for this look. So this is just gorgeous. Now, Ralph Lauren did use velvet in his collections. Here is a beautiful velvet dress, employing all the dark and gorgeous colors in this floral pattern, which he did do other floral dresses, mostly in black and ivory, which I thought was just very classic and kind of classy, just beautiful looks. So I really like those. In this last look, a jewel-like purple blazer is paired over a ruffle neck blouse and over the knee boots. Although God, I can't speak. I'm trying to read. I'm trying not to have so much glare with the glasses. But it says, I wrote down, although the look is structured, the feminine details beautifully softens the look, and it absolutely does. Okay, so here is a final note on Ralph Lauren's fall-winter collection. If you take a look at all of the models he featured in the runway, they were all wearing, almost all of them were wearing chandelier earrings. And so he is definitely bringing back the chandelier earring. And it does add to his romantic vibe, and it makes sense with this collection. And with the exception of a few models, long hair prevailed, styled very natural, very loose, almost in that French way. And I think this just enhanced that sort of ethereal, romantic vibe. Okay, next up is Chloe. And Chloe has put together a very ethereal collection for fall 2025. It is just beautiful. The vibe is somewhere between 70s bohemian and fairy goddess. The collection features ruffles everywhere, a lot of sheer skirts and lace tops, and these are all mixed with wide belts or chain belts, but a lot of fur and trim, and the look is just undone, yet very sophisticated. All right, back to the glasses again. So I did want to say that the color palette that I seen, it was just full of ivories, whites, champagnes, pale grays, soft blues, and soft pinks. So let's dive into these looks. Again, long mixes with shorter necklaces is definitely a consistent styling trend throughout this look, as well as it was in Ralph Lauren's look, although he used more of the bit horse necklaces. This is just beautiful. You see Chloe styling a lot of the long necklaces with the shorter necklace. But let's take a look up at this beautiful first outfit. It's in this gorgeous champagne colored dress. It's topped with a velvet fur trim coat. The raccoon fur charm is used throughout the entire collection, and the outfit is styled with flats, which is featured heavily throughout the collection. You don't see mini heels, you don't see pumps. So next up is this lace and silk dress paired with a burgundy bag and topped with a short leather jacket trimmed in fur. As you can see in this photo, shiny leather is incorporated, and if a narrow belt is used, it is in the chain style. And I so remember those from like my younger years. Here they have done a trench type coat, also trimmed in fur, and incorporated that raccoon charm again and chain belt, as well as these 70s inspired sunglasses. Okay, in this next photo, we can see three looks together from this collection. I did notice in many of the jackets and coats, the house borrowed the wide shoulder look from the 80s, but always in a very feminine way, much more attractive than I think we've seen in the 80s. And I noticed that all of these three outfits are also styled with the models wearing flats. Okay, in this next look, we see a wide belt over the skirt and the use of a velvet trim jacket used to complete the look. I did want to point out that many of the bags featured in this collection also had chains dangling from the bottom of the bags, and I thought that was really different. It was almost like they were using it like you would use a fringe, but rather than a fringe in suede or leather, they were using these chains, and I just thought that was kind of unusual. I really like that look. So this next look features a sheer gray skirt, ruffled blouse, and a brown jacket that is it looks almost like a stole, paired with this brown bag. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, you're going to see a lot of browns paired with gray. All right, so next up, here's a pair of leather gray pants that I love. So if you had bought in the last year, 2 years to buying some of these leather pants, I'm still seeing them. You can top this with an interesting puffer type short jacket trimmed in fur like they did here. Next up is this pink maxi skirt, which is trimmed in lace. And the bottom appears to be scalloped, so it's very feminine. And they've incorporated a very 70s style platform shoe and accessorized it again with the raccoon charms. So next up is the use of wide belts over skirts with shorter jackets. And I just think this is just a beautiful look. It's particularly, it's a beautiful alternative for women who do not like to wear structured pieces. It's just not their style, or it doesn't fit their personality, because then you get that third piece to play with and to layer, but you don't feel constricted, and it's not in a more structured look. So I really like that. And I thought that was, you know, kind of a clever way to layer this year. Okay. All right. So here, okay, we're going to finish off our look at Chloe with these lacy ethereal dresses, where they have added this extra tier ruffling around the hip area. I'm not sure if there's an actual name for this style, but I think this would be hard to pull off if you are more bottom heavy. But if you're very thin, I think the effect of this you know, tiering around the hip area almost makes your waist look smaller. And if you don't have much of a figure, say you're straight up and down, or you have a more boyish figure, it almost gives you curves. So I think this is a really good look, but it's only going to work for some women, I think. But anyway, that was the highlights for Chloe. So now let's move on to Gucci. Okay, for Gucci, overall, this was a very confusing collection to me. You can see a lot of the pieces in the collection are very mid-century modern. They look like pieces you would see in the 40s and 50s, and then yet he'll switch over to 70s and even the 90s, and it just feels like the collection isn't very cohesive. And I found that the cohesiveness that you do see in this collection is the use of very bright and shocking colors. And other than that, I just didn't get a clear picture of exactly what they were trying to do with this particular collection. However, I did think it was worth talking about if you are someone who likes to dress maybe a little more avant-garde, or you're more fashion forward. You may really enjoy some of these looks, so let's get into them. All right. In this first look, this is a very mid-century matching suit that's straight out of Mad Men. The look is modernized by the use of the bright purple tights and the colorful handbag. The oversized wide wireframe Gucci glasses are also featured in a lot of the outfits that were shown on the runway. And I do like that. I like that style. I expect a good pair of glasses from Gucci. All right, in this next look, the model is wearing a swing-style vest with oversized buttons, and I mean oversized. And you did see a lot of this in the 40s and 50s and even in the 60s. It looks like she's wearing a textured wrap skirt here with a velvet handbag. So it's a lot of mixture, a lot of different things going on. And again, a bright shoe was added and a scarf. And to modernize this scarf, because I do remember, like when I was a child in the 60s and 50s, women did wear a lot of scarves. And of course, scarves have been trending again for us now. And here they modernized this look by putting it over a baseball cap, which we've also been seeing as well. But I just thought that was interesting to talk about it. And in this next look, it features a satin and lace dress with a plunging neckline. Now this, they had used a structured bag, and it was wrapped around the wrist, which I have seen in some of these other collections as well. I think Chloe did that a little bit. And this one had the horse spit necklace, and like they did with Ralph Lauren. And here they added gray pumps. There were several dresses like this that just confused the look for me, though. In my opinion, they started off with a pretty strong mid-century modern vibe, and then added a lot of things to the looks that appeared to be 90s. And so me, it just seemed very disjointed. I couldn't figure out where they were going with this collection. Although individually, a lot of the pieces are very pretty, and you could really style them however you'd like to style them. So this next length is a midi length velvet dress in bright orange featuring a wide belt and a long scarf. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This dress made no sense to me in this collection. I didn't understand why they put that in there or that style in there. It's got the little short collar, you know, the collar with very short lapels, and then it's got this long scarf. And you can't see it here in this picture, but watching the runway, at the bottom, the skirt was shredded. So there was a lot going on in this textured velvet shirt, but it didn't make sense to part of the other collection to me. So I couldn't pick up the continuity there. All right, so this outfit, this leans more modern than mid-century modern. Although the fur coat could be similar to a 1940s style, the elements don't feel cohesive to me. The only thing really holding the collection together appears to be the accessories rather than a recognizable style throughout the collection. Again, I know I've said that several times, but it bugs me that either I'm not seeing it or it was just not that great. I can't figure out. You tell me in the comments below. Okay, and this next look, they have used an updated classic sweater set that you would see like, in the Mad Men days. And they topped this over an applique pencil skirt and two-tone shoes. This does appear to be a modern take of the mid-century modern because two-tone shoes in women's dress shoes were widely available at that time. And of course, pencil skirts and sweater sets, but they've just updated them here. So at least I feel like this outfit belongs in the collection. In this next look, they have paired bright green and purple with a soft bag. And again, I can't figure out where they're going with this. I just, don't get the look. Like, everything starts out with the smaller lapels on the coat, and the style does look more 40s or 50s, but then the rest of the outfit looks like it came straight out of the 90s. I'm sorry. All right, and this next look, the coat and the skirt do have a very 40s style, but the rest of the outfit, paired with this sheer plunging modern lace top, again, I can't figure out what's happening for this one. Okay, so the final look for today is the gray velvet bodysuit that I'm showing you here. They styled this with a really large belt, and I did want to feature this look because throughout Gucci's runway show, they did have fur bags, which I thought was interesting. Not something I would probably ever purchase or carry just because the fact that, what are you going to do when that thing gets dirty? But anyway, I feel like this was a disjointed collection, but I'm still glad I shared it with you because I did want to let you see what Gucci was doing. I tried to pick 3 designers. Ralph Lauren is very Americana, Chloe is very bohemian, and Gucci is a little bit more avant-garde, so I wanted to show that to you. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video. And it remains to be seen if what's been shown on the runway will actually transfer to being a trend in real life. We'll just have to see. But anyway, I enjoyed this. I hope you did too. And I will see you next week.